Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to an update of my entry into the OpenToonz Portal collaboration. So it's week 3 and I did two main things this week. The first thing, as you can see on the screen, is I started work on the dinosaur. And I've got two scenes with him. The first one is just the foot stamping down, and you can see me putting this together first. And I use the method that I've shown in other videos, where I draw a rectangle and then use the control point editor tool just to add new points and to shape the rectangle into the shape I need. And this ensures you can use the fill tool to fill it with one solid colour. I then drew on these ridges and added some highlights and shadows to try and give them some depth. And because I drew the line first before the shadow and highlights, you see me bringing the line to the front using the square bracket key. And again a few highlights and shadows on the nails, just to add that depth. And then you see me adding the movement and adjusting the timing so the foot comes down at the right time and synchronises with the puddle. Then a few minor adjustments, and that's that scene done. And the next scene was drawing the main dinosaur, and this was a lot harder to do. So I've already got a sketch of a dinosaur that I put in place for scale. And again, you see me using the box technique to draw an outline around the outside of the dinosaur so I can fill it in. And if you've got a sketch to work from, this method works quite well. Now I didn't spend too long on the dinosaur, and you can see at the beginning it does look a bit rough, but it gets slightly better as I make further adjustments. So here you can see me adjusting the shape of his head and his neck to try and make him look more realistic. And again I add a few shadows to try and add a bit of depth so it doesn't look so plain. And then I move on to the leg. And although I'm adding some shadows and highlights to add some depth to the dinosaur, I don't actually add a lot of detail, as you won't see him for very long in animation anyway. And here you see me adjusting the shape of his snout and his eye and adding a bit more detail to the head. And here you can see me setting up the plastic tool, where I first apply a mesh to the body and then set up the skeleton structure. Then immediately after setting up the skeleton, I test the animation to make sure it moves in the way I expect, before I try to add the actual keys to the timeline. And then I spend a good few minutes going back and forth, changing the keys, previewing the animation, and then changing the keys again until I was happy. And then I set up each of the legs for animating. Then in the schematic I attach the left leg to one of the bones in the main dinosaur's plastic tool, and this meant as the dinosaur moved forward, the left leg moved with it. Then it works on making him walk. He only takes a single step, so it wasn't too difficult, but I wanted to try and make him look as realistic as possible. And that's where the rest of the video goes, just refining the movement of the dinosaur, the timing against the stickman of when he runs, and also to move the shadow with the dinosaur. The last thing I worked on this week was the portal itself, but unfortunately my computer crashed, so the screen recording software didn't save the video of that. But basically it was based on yesterday's video, but because I wanted the portal to be based on the portal from Rick and Morty, I made it a circle so I could rotate it. So I drew the portal as a circle, coloured it in on 2 different layers and rotated them both at slightly different speeds. So you probably won't notice it, but the white spots around the edge move slightly slower than the green lines in the centre, and this was to try and add some layering to the animation. So I drew the portal as a circle, coloured it in, then added some rotation with the animate tool. And then I scaled it in one direction to give an oval shape. I used a couple of effects, the glow and the distort effect, with the distort effect giving it a small wobble so it wasn't a perfect oval. And then I used the animate tool's scale effect to resize the portal larger to make it appear, and then to shrink down to make it disappear at the end. And finally I hand drew some electrical effects on the portal as it opened and as it closed. And again I added some glow to these to make them shine. So that's the end of week 3. So it just leaves 1 week left to finish off. And I've got a few things I want to look at. So I want to refine the timing slightly so it doesn't go by quite so quickly. I want to add some small background animations, like some smoke coming out of the volcano, possibly some birds flying out of the tree, it depends if I get time. And maybe to add a little more detail to the background because it looks quite plain. But that's about it, we're almost there. And I'll post my final update next Saturday with all of this done. But make sure you come back next Friday as my tutorial will all be about using the glow effect. So I'll see you then. And that's a guarantee.